I think you're definitely being called to led from within. And, this first episode has been really powerful.
Just be yourself. Do it from a place of, I want to make your life better.
I've seen the impact that you've had on many people's lives.
Welcome to the Led From Within series. My name is Daniel Hersel, and in today's episode, we're taking a deep dive into my story. It's an opportunity for me to be vulnerable, share my past with you, really share how trauma, rejection, and past circumstances shaped who I am today, and really why I believe that being led from within is a fantastic opportunity for us to move around the world. I decided to bring down my good friend and coach, Pete Cohen, who's been with me on this journey for the last 10 years, and he's going to help me unfold and unpack this for you guys to listen to. So I hope you enjoy the series and look forward to seeing you soon. This is it. Let's do it.
How are you doing today, Dan?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling really excited. And it's time.
Time for a new season.
100%. It's time for a new season for me.
Time for led from within. So why don't we just start off by talking a little bit about what that actually means? What does led from within actually mean to you?
Being led from within for me is, for me personally, it's more about being informed by my faith, being led by who I truly am, which has taken a lot of time to figure out and understand, being led from a place of a value system that's been worked on and shaped and molded versus being led by external, being led from our past, being led by outcomes, being led by the world, by the outside. It's about really being led by from within, which to me ultimately is being led by my faith. But for other people, they may see it in a different light, and really helping people question, challenge, find what that means from them so they can have a better quality of life, to be honest.
So over these podcasts, we're going to be kind of really diving into what it means to be led from within. Yes. I've been really fortunate enough to know you for, I think, 10 years.
Yeah.
And I've seen the person that you've become. It's pretty remarkable, actually, and what you've done, what you've achieved. How would you describe yourself? I know you're an educator, you're a businessman.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I've been very, as you always say, I've been blessed by the people that I've been able to work with and follow, because I feel like I've had the fortune of being led by people that also are led from within. So that's been very, very helpful. But if I could summarize me as a person, I'm just somebody that cares deeply about humanity. I really care for each individual, and I really had to take some time to understand why, or also understand how to be more effective rather than being reckless or being in reaction, which is part of the reason why this first podcast is really delving into my vulnerability and who I used to be and what happened to me. And so, I would just say I'm somebody who loves to a brother to everybody, a brother to anybody who wants to go on a journey and get side by side with someone who truly cares deeply about their life. That's really what I'm about these days.
Well, I think this whole thing about being led from within or being led from something outside of yourself, what's really interesting is what you have achieved that people would see from the outside world. I think a lot of people would say, well, that's success, right? In terms of you have created a lifestyle for yourself where pretty much you can do what you want, when you want. Money isn't an issue for you in your life right now. And you have created an amazing lifestyle. But I think what's been truly remarkable is the internal changes that you've made. And I know some people talk about sometimes the greatest journey is the journey within, which is a journey which a lot of people don't go on, and without they perhaps are missing out. What is in it for someone who decides to kind of look at their life, look at their past, look at their habits, look at their behaviors? Is it worth it? Is that a journey that everybody should do?
Yeah, I believe so. I think if you were going to, I don't like the idea of being impressive, but if there was anything to be impressed by from my life, I would hope that it's the consistency of who I am, in that who I am doesn't change dependent on income, lifestyle, or what I can have. And also, if we don't make that switch from being led from within, I don't think we can have a consistent feeling of success because it'll always be dependent on things, on variables that are out of our control. And I think often in business, what I've seen a lot of rise and falls. And when they're going up, they're on top of the world, and it's kind of like, you can't stop me. But life in the fast lane, eventually, you can't live in the fast lane forever. And so if there was anything to be impressed by, or something I want to impress upon people, is to take that journey and be led from within, so that you make the right conscious decisions that are going to benefit you in the future, whether it's making business decisions that are from a moral and value standpoint rather than an income standpoint, because I know where that leads, from having healthy relationships. Like, I've got friendships and I'd love to think that I'm in their phone book because they love and care for me, rather than they see me as a dollar sign and, oh, I can get something from Dan. And it's a completely different shift and a different way of thinking. And you could say that often you'll have to sacrifice or compromise on things, but I think it's worth it. You know, I think one of the biggest flexes in my life is that I sleep well. Sleep well, I sleep deep, and knowing that everything I'm doing is in alignment with, you know, my belief system, my value system, and also for me, from a faith standpoint, in right standing with God, because ultimately He can see our heart, whereas the world can see my Instagram posts, the world can see my reels. But I think that's the power of, especially in today's day and age, I truly believe that authenticity is so inspiring. And I think deep down, everybody, as I said to you many times, that quote from Johnny Depp that says, everybody would just love to be themselves, but they can't, because they're on this hamster wheel of trying to get this outward declaration of success and this outward kind of like award or symbol. But I don't think it's worth it. In fact, I know it's not worth it. And I know that because of the journey that I've been on the last 10 years. One of the greatest pleasures I have is being able to connect and speak to people of all different levels and angles, and people that are worth tens of millions, to people who are just getting started, or people working a job. And I can tell you now, the people that I'm most inspired by are not the financially wealthiest, but they are the wealthiest, which we're going to do a series on what wealth truly is. So ultimately, being led from within is a place from you make decisions from discernment, from really understanding the power and the meaning behind the decisions you're about to make, and the impact that has far beyond a contract, a paycheck, or a short-term friendship or a business relationship.
You know, it's been fascinating, obviously, having known you, and see the person that you have become. And, you know, we all have a story. And we were talking yesterday about how we're all in the story making business. I think to make sense of your own story and your own past is really, really important. And that's what we're going to kind of dive into. Your origin story, you know, how you became to be who you are. And I know that you're a really humble person. So I don't think you particularly like the light on yourself and talking about yourself, but I know that your story will resonate with a lot of people in terms of what you've actually been through. So let's go back. How far should we go back? When were you born? How old are you?
I was quite young when I was born, actually.
Really?
But no, I was born 1993, so I'm 32 years old. And
what was your first kind of memory of growing up?
My memory, I was in hospital quite a lot, actually, which I think this is something we forgot to speak about. I was actually a very sick child. I was in hospital quite a lot. I can't remember. I had what's the illness where you can't eat wheat, or colitis?
Colitis.
Yeah. So I had that when I was younger. So I remember actually going to the chemist to get special bread and special food, because
your mum went to go and get it. As
I walked down the shop. So that was actually my first. I completely forgot about that, and apparently like a 1% chance that you can actually outgrow that, which I obviously did. Maybe that's why I eat the way I do today. That was my first memory, and then my second was just football. I was football mad. I was obsessed with football. I loved David Beckham. I used to go to bed watching Manchester United's top 50 goals. I was just obsessed. I just loved it.
And you got two brothers.
Yeah.
An
older brother and a younger brother.
And when you were quite young, you found out that your father wasn't your father. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I feel like there's obviously moments. There's always big moments in your life, and sometimes they don't make sense. as Steve Jobs says, he likes to say, you can only connect the dots by going forwards, not going backwards. So sometimes things take a while to really make sense. And so I do remember at a very early age, I was being raised by my younger brother's dad. We've got different fathers, and I do remember a day. I can't remember too much, but I just remember being in the car and being kind of informed that, oh, this isn't actually your real dad. And although I don't think it didn't affect me too much at that time because I was so young, but I do remember kind of thinking, trying to work things out, because I was always a very deep thinker. I had amazing imagination when I was younger. So I used to, pack my bag and pretend I was going to play for Man United. Like I had a great imagination, and so I've always had that. Yeah, I've always been a daydreamer. Even at school, I would always be, I was a good kid. Well, I wasn't bad, I wasn't good, but I would always daydreaming. I was always thinking about the future or thinking about things deeply. So I think that did have an impact, but not.
You probably weren't aware of the impact at the time.
No.
You can imagine, if you look back at that child, he must have been really confused as
to
what does this all mean?
Yes.
And how did that kind of play out? How did it play out with him?
Yeah. So I mean, he was abusive, So
he hit you?
Yeah. He used to give me 6 of the best.
Yeah.
Which was 6 heavy smacks. And if I said something bad, he'd wash my mouth out with liquid, Ferry Up liquid.
Yeah.
So I remember I used to hide. We used to have a cabinet where all the towels were, and I used to get right in the top and hide. So yeah, I was a bit of a troublemaker, but it was when I look back, it was pretty harsh.
Yeah.
And
your way of this. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. And now looking back, I can obviously see that there was abuse within my mum and his relationship, which again you're not aware of at the time because I was so focused on my football and he was heavily involved in that. I saw him as kind of like a mentor type thing, where obviously he was my dad, and we had quite a strong relationship in that sense. But he was very, very, he was pretty ruthless. He was pretty rough.
Obviously, one of your way of probably coping was to play football, right?
Yeah,
football.
I just loved football. So I was playing in like a Chelsea academy. So I was playing 3 nights a week, playing at weekends. Obviously, I was at school as well. But it was rough because it was my way of expressing myself, as and that feeling of the only time where nothing else was on your mind is like when you're playing football. It's like a therapeutic thing. And so that's how it kind of was.
So betrayal obviously became a bit of a theme, from a very early age. And then what about your real father? When did that kind of come onto the scene?
Yeah, exactly. So it was quite, it was quite traumatic. Obviously, my mum and Dudley's father parted ways. I carried on seeing him for a few weeks or a few months. I was fairly young, so I can't remember it.
Didn't he give you an ultimatum?
Yeah. So essentially, again, the way my mind works is that I want to know things, and I don't want you to tell me. I don't want this, but I want to figure out for myself. I've always had this inquisitive nature. So I kind of said, listen, I want to know who my real dad is. And some people say, oh well, he doesn't deserve it, or this, that, and the other. And my mindset is, well, let me decide if that's the case, but ultimately it led me to, obviously I can imagine how that kind of made him feel, I guess. And he kind of said, well, listen, if you want to find out who your real dad is, then I'll no longer be a part of your life. And that was the last I ever saw or heard from him.
Yes.
So at the time, my older brother, who we had the same father, so he was I think they got into contact and they were hanging out a little bit, and I was kind of I was desperate for a father figure in my life. My mum was amazing. She was like a superwoman, and she was one of those people that supported a family and did the role of the mum and dad. But I think every young man craves and I think needs that father figure in their life. When I look back, it's quite sad when I look at that boy who was just so desperate for a father in his life, for a father figure. And so I my mum obviously had, some relationships or whatever, and I'd always be so hopeful that maybe this person could be, the figure in my life, and every time, say for example, a relationship come to an end, it would be another kind of like disappointment, another letdown, and like you say, betrayal
Mm.
really became a part of me, and it kind of wears you down. And then at the time, I got back in contact. I managed to get in contact and
With your real dad.
with my real dad, and spent some time. And again, I was so desperate for that to become a father, but obviously that was never. It was never going to happen. I think the damage was done, or there was too much. So that eventually came to pass. And
Well, what sort of a
he,
person was your real dad? Is your real dad?
yeah, I mean, again, I wasn't so old enough to really be able to build a formal relationship, so I couldn't really judge. But he definitely, obviously, still lacked the ability or the courage to take responsibility, for whatever reason. Again, I can't really judge, but it was clear that he was afraid of taking the responsibility. He was clearly afraid of. Maybe he was afraid of letting people down. And that's the impression I kind of get now looking back. And ultimately he did, to be honest, or that's how I feel. Again, whatever happened. So again, it was another stab, from my perspective, another stab in the back of not being good enough. That was kind of the overriding message and the overriding cycle in my life of I just never, why does nobody like want me,
Yeah.
And again, this is those of you that know, people that know me and know me well, know that I've got an amazing mom, no denying that. But like I said, I think there's a part of every man who is just desperate. And I would see other people spending time with their dads and whatever, and it was just something that was just in me. I was just so desperate. And so, yeah, betrayal became kind of like being let down and disappointment.
Almost anticipating it.
Yeah, so I think that obviously played into my football career as well. So I still remember being rejected. Getting you get a formal letter to say, unfortunately, we're going to let you go.
How old are you?
I was probably 12, 13, I'd imagine. I'm actually not too sure. But it was like, it's normal. I mean, it's a normal thing to happen in a career. Many footballers get let go 10, 15, 20 times. But for me, I just couldn't let it, like, for me, that was the end. And I felt like I gave up. When I look back, I think I gave up then. Although I carried on and I went to Millwall, Wimbledon, West Ham, and I was like on trials and had offers or whatever, but I could tell that was the kind of decline of my confidence in football. I just never felt good enough. I never felt like I was going to be good enough. And that was a cycle that just replayed in my life over and over and over again, all the way into, all the way through, really.
What's fascinating is about how these things play out in terms of who we become based on the back of what happens to us. And I think what happened to you is that you went from people not taking responsibility around you to you deciding to really take responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
Right. It sounds like your trauma response, a way of
Yep.
dealing with it. But we can come back to that. So you left school, then what happened?
No, well, I stayed in school right until the very end. I kind of really I started to seek comfort. So I'd try and be very like tactical in the way that I kind of played and try and avoid, I'd try and avoid tough situations, if that makes sense. So like with school, I stayed there for far too long. I ended up doing 3 years in sixth form because they set up an opportunity to play football and study. So I kind of did that for as long as I can. So I was there until I was like 18, 19, I think, which usually you kind of done by 16, 17. And then I went to university. And when I think back again, although I don't regret a thing, even the choice to go to university, I don't think it was on the right basis. I mean, I went to university because I was desperate I was be the first person in the family to complete university. And I wanted to make my granddad proud, who was someone who I loved. My granddad, we had such a great relationship. Unfortunately, he passed away when I was fairly young as well. So again, I guess another stab, of losing someone. And so I went to university, and that's when I think the spiral got worse before it got better, or it most certainly did.
Yeah.
So I experienced what I believe to be probably the most significant betrayal.
Yeah. So tell us what happened, because you got taken up there by your friend.
So, I had a relationship, and to be honest, it was quite a toxic relationship, but we were really young. And I don't think either of us were angels, but what happened was like really significant because someone that I trusted and was friends with my whole entire life, I ended up betraying me in my opinion, the ultimate.
So you were in the car. I remember you telling me this story.
Yeah. So I was at university, and I remember seeing a message on my friend's phone from my girlfriend at the time, and that's when I realized that those two had been together basically, and I just couldn't believe it. I didn't say anything, but that was the last time I ever heard from him, which was disappointing because it's somebody that I grew up with I believe we were born in pretty much the same hospital at the same time, all the way up until you were kind of 19, 20, and that was it. And I never heard from him ever again since that moment, which was just devastating. And at that point, we were in Freshers Week.
So your first week, you didn't. There
was the second year. The first year was a struggle for me because, again, academically, I'm not very academic at all, and again, lacked a lot of confidence. Always felt like I was the stupid one in the class. But socially, I've always been really good at fitting in. So at school, I used to sell sweets and chocolate. I used to be friends with everyone, and I used to I've always loved being friends with people. Like, that might sound a bit weird, but I've just always enjoyed being around all kinds of different people, and so at uni, I was able to kind of do that as well. But deep down, I was, really battling with everything that happened to me. And my way of at this point, my way of doing it was like, listen, I've got to face this on my own because no one else is going to help me. There's no one else out there that really cares. Or every time I put my faith in someone or something, it always seems to fail me. And I think, so in my second year, when this all happened, we had Freshers Week, which is the week where everyone just has loads of fun and whatever. And I just sat in my room for the whole entire week, just some nights just literally staring at the wall, just thinking like, just going round and round and round. And I think people closest to me found it quite difficult as well because they saw the way I was isolating myself. People obviously at uni just thought I was like mental. They just thought,
what do you mean mental?
Well, they're just kind of like, who doesn't come out in Freshers Week? They didn't know the significance or what I was going through and everything that happened to me in the past. And I wasn't a sharer.
What's interesting is that to the outside world, no one would know. But what was going on within you, this whole thing around led from within, you had to face that, right? Because it just got so much, like a pressure cooker, that there was just too much pressure.
Yeah.
And you finally went to a doctor, didn't you?
Yeah, so it was, it was a lot of pressure.
You had panic attacks?
Yeah, I was having panic attacks. I was having, I just would just have these complete, like, I don't know how to explain it, just like out of world experience where I was just like, what is going on? And I've just, it was extreme. And so, I remember booking myself in to speak to someone, and I felt I had such a feeling of shame of going to see a therapist because it's kind of like admitting that something's wrong with you. And I never wanted to be a product of what happened to me. I was just like, it was kind of like, it's a man's pride, isn't it? It's like, so the shame of going there. And this was where things started to kind of turn around because I remember sitting there in the office and I was filling in a form. And one of the questions was, have you ever thought about, committing suicide? And I had to select yes. And I just remember that moment, realizing,
I had to tell the truth.
Yeah, I had to face up to
your own
facts, and I had no choice. There was I couldn't escape it because if I really want to help, I need to admit it. So, ticking that box was really the moment where I kind of just almost let my shoulders drop and just released. And I remember just sitting in a room with a therapist and he was talking. I was not listening at all. All I was thinking is like, what the hell? How has this happened? Like, how have you ended up here? Like, this can't be it. And I was like, and then, they offered medication to tell my family. I was like, no, I don't want anyone to know. And as I walked out of there, I said, I'm never going back there again. And, this is the moment where I'm going to, something's going to have to change. So I went back to my room at uni. And the funny thing is like, my housemates really had no idea, because like I said, when they saw me, I was just smiling, playing in sports teams, very social. But it was exhausting. Like, it was so exhausting playing this kind of character that I thought everybody wanted me to be, or a character to compensate for who I was at the moment. So yeah, I kind of remember going back to my room, I didn't really know what to do, so I just kind of like laid on the floor and prayed, and I didn't really understand what I was doing, of course. And I woke up the next morning on the floor, and I believe that was the day where I really said, you know what, like enough is enough, and this is where kind of the other side, where the pendulum swung back the other way, where I became, it's me against the world, and I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to become who I truly want to become, which is someone who's dependable, responsible, to make sure nobody around me or no one I come into contact has to suffer the way that I suffered. And so I just had this like innate desire to be someone, and I didn't exactly know who that was, but I knew who it wasn't going to be. And that's when the spiral started to swing the other way.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you went from one extreme to another.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to take full responsibility.
Yeah.
That's like, it's a trauma response, right?
Yes.
It wasn't the most healthiest thing to do, but
Yeah.
it's probably much better than living the way that you had been
100%.
living. So
Yeah.
what started to change?
Not
Still at university?
Nothing. Yeah, I was still at university. I mean, anyone who's been to university will know that essays, dissertations are not cool, and for me especially, because again, I honestly don't mean to put myself down or anything, but I don't really understand how I was able to get through, because I was always getting the worst grades in the house. So in my house, all my housemates, I was always getting the 2.2s, just scraping by. But at that point, that was enough for me. I just had to get through it. So I managed to get through university. I just remember thinking to myself, like, right now, this is where I need to step up, But again, my social life was pretty good. I had a lot of friends. I was always out drinking, but again, there was like this deep down, like overwhelming feeling that we've got to change. Something else has got to happen. If you don't go after it, then you're just going to become what happened to you.
And what do you think you went after?
I just wanted to be. I wanted to just like myself. I wanted to be proud of who I was. I wanted to prove things. I was on a mission to prove things to myself, to people around me, and now I look back, I don't think it was the healthiest response, but it got me through at the time.
Yeah.
So I pushed on. I was working on site. I was working on a building site.
So you used to go home in the holidays?
Yeah, I used to go home. I've always loved working. So I had a paper round. I did a milk float when I was 13, 14. I love hard work. Like, I loved grafting. I worked with some bricklayers and some builders, and I loved it. I loved being outside. I loved the freedom, the fresh air. I like building things. I'd love learning, and so I loved working on a building site. And again, I'm so grateful to the people that kind of mentored me as such in that way, taught me hard work and skills and just having fun. It was good. But at the same time, I was trying to build a football academy, because I felt this is where the kind of like the boy against the world was in me. So I started a football academy, and my goal was to try and rewrite history, because I thought that the reason that I didn't make it in football was because of my confidence, which might have been true, but I thought it was confidence through the football system. So I built this football coaching business, or was building it, completely winging it, but again, just doing it out of pure proving, taking on responsibility. Just like, it was silly when I think back to some of the things I did, but nevertheless, I ended up with like 100 kids on the books, and it was going okay. But then at the same time, around the area, a unique opportunity came into my life. And this is how, obviously, we came to be friends as well, which I'm eternally grateful for.
Well, I think in the next episode, we're gonna look at that. We'll look at your entrepreneurial journey. But let's just tie up a few things here. So your relationship with your real father.
Yeah.
You've met him a couple of times.
Yeah.
And what's happened there?
Nothing. As far as I remember, he kind of just stopped showing up.
Yeah, because you said, I remember you telling me once you saw him in a betting office.
Yeah, so I was, we were waiting for a table, and we just went next door. I don't know why. We just went into a betting shop to just play some £1 bingo. And he walked in, and I couldn't believe it. And I I don't know what it is about me. I mean, I just always want to give someone another chance. So I kind of just wrote down my number on a bit of paper and I said, listen, if you want to, this isn't that long ago, to be honest. I said, if you want, because I didn't even know if he was
Alive.
alive. I'd been like heard things, told stories or whatever. It was confusing. And so I remember handing him a bit of paper with my number on it, but never heard from him since. But at that point, you know, I wasn't emotionally connected to. I didn't expect anything. I've got a heart of forgiveness. You know,
Yeah.
I'll be willing to give anybody a chance.
I think you kind of got to a point where you didn't need that in your life.
No.
But I think father figures in your life,
Yeah,
you've had a few, like people.
100%. No, I've been very, very lucky. And again, the people that I'm truly inspired by aren't typical. They're not out there on Instagram flashing cars and watches. That's not what I'm driven and motivated by. I've had people, you know, like yourself who are older and wiser and have what I would call a true meaning of success, which is a real sense of who they are, a real deep understanding of what happened to them, and they're living in accordance to that. And again, you know, like with my faith, I've got, you know, the most amazing kind of mentor, if you will, and other people in my life that I seek counsel from, but very, very few people. And I used to have a real issue with what people thought about me. That was one of the hardest obstacles to overcome. Because I always used to feel like, why doesn't anyone understand me? I always felt this need. I want everybody to understand the way I am, so they know that I'm not a bad person. And so again, that was such a toxic response to the trauma, because I wanted to be everybody's friend. I wanted to fix everybody's problems and realize that I can't, and the damages that come. So, you know, the opinions that really only matter to me truly are, you know, my soon to be wife, my brother, my mom, and people like yourself. They're the opinions that only really matter because they know truly who I am. They've seen me at my best, seen me at my worst, rather than being judged by a snippet of an action or something like that.
So what happens to, because I think for a lot of your life, you were interested in the trappings that we've all kind of gone after in our lives, the outer symbols of success, that you've obviously now realized that there's more to life than how much money you have in your bank, even though these can be nice things, nice cars. Why is the journey within a journey that you would encourage other people to go on?
I think like I said from the beginning, it's a journey that creates consistency in your life. I think as you get older, the kind of game changes and you value things a lot differently. Having said that, again, I'm not sure why. It'd be interesting to know, but I've never really valued things as much as I've valued people and my relationships. I don't want to be, I don't need transactional friends. I don't need transactional relationships in my life. I don't want them. I don't want to be in your phone book because I'm a good contact for if you need something. I want to be a good contact because you value me and you love me and you know that I love you. And if you're in trouble, I'll be there for you. Not you don't have it for that reason. You just know that to be true, you know? And so I believe it's like playing the long game, which I'm massive on. So many opportunities in my life, I've had an opportunity to get a quick buck, but to give up what I believe in, and I just never have, because I just never believed it was the right thing to do. And there were times in my life where I kind of felt like I regretted it, because I'd look and be like, oh man, if I'd done that, I could have been like that. But time really does expose and promote. And so I've seen so many rise and falls. I've seen people that I really looked up to just lose everything because of a decision that they made because they were led from outside in, as opposed to what I believe is to be led from inside out, which means to be led by value system, be informed by your faith, discernment, which is basically taking your time and really understanding the long-term impact of what decisions you make, if it's a friendship, a relationship, a business. And I only participate in long games. I have taken a few punts in investments and whatnot, but ultimately, and made some mistakes along the way, obviously happy to admit, but ultimately I've always been massive on playing the long game. I know it's not attractive, it's not like sexy, it's not going to woo you on Instagram, but it's the right thing to do. And I think everybody will, if they haven't already, reach a part in their life where they sense a real void inside. And I truly believe that from my experience and from working and connecting with so many people, there is a void that everybody feels, but not
Yeah.
many people feel.
Well, I told you my coach said to me, everybody's lost.
Mm.
And I had to think about that because I thought, no. But then I thought about it. I think he might be right that most people are lost. There's a void and they're looking for something.
Yeah.
And what they're looking for, I suppose that's up to them to work that out. But if you don't stop and you don't do that work and go within,
Yeah.
I think you're going to always go without.
Yeah.
And that maybe is that peace and that self-love.
Yeah. I think, well, everyone's looking for peace. That's why they say I need to go away and get some peace and quiet. But it would be amazing for people to realize that peace is already in them. It already coexists. It's omnipresent. But most people are driven by outcomes. And as we said, outcomes are the gateway to disappointments.
Yeah.
How much is enough money? $1 more. It will never be enough. And so we run around with these voids. In my opinion, it's the ultimate void of faith, coming to know, to know that truth. But it's a void that everybody feels, but very few are willing to admit until the pressure builds up so much, like what happened to me. And that's an unfortunate journey to go on, which could be avoided.
Yeah, but it's also been the making of you.
100%. That's the kind of double-edged sword, isn't it? Where, it's like our greatest pains become our greatest strengths. And I don't regret a thing. But what I would love to be is somebody that people could find their voice in my story or find their meaning in my story to give them hope, give them some guidance. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not your mentor.
Yeah.
But I am somebody who cares deeply about, your humanity and your walk in the world. And if I can make that better, brighter, and more prosperous, then that's it.
So I give that quote of we're all being called to something, and if you don't answer the call gets louder and louder.
Yeah.
What is it that you're being called to?
I honestly, I'm just called to be a friend, to be a friend that I felt like I never had. And that might sound disrespectful because I've got amazing friends and I'm not discrediting any of them. But when you're in that moment, you feel such a victim. Well, you are I was a victim, but you feel like, but I had a victim mindset. So I just feel a calling to be the friend that everybody needs, and I don't want anything from you. And I think that's something that people really struggle to get over, because I know many people kind of stand, why do you do this for me? Listen, it's a pleasure, and it's what I always wanted, what I always needed, and what I eventually found in people like yourself, like, my other coach, Rick, who's amazing as well. People that just pour into my life and they don't want anything in return. It's a hard concept to understand. It is hard. And right now, I believe it's power. I think the most powerful thing we can do, communities, is obviously big and fellowship, but there's nothing quite like a brothers and sisters standing together. What do you need? What can I do for you? As you used to teach me, what can I do for you? With no expectation in return, no outcome, no financial gain.
Yeah. It's a hard concept for people to get their head around, but if you can move through the world that way, I think life takes on a different
100%.
Different.
And you don't measure. I think that's the difference between myself from an earlier. I never measured my success on money, because that's the only thing that most people can measure, because everyone knows what a lot of money is and what not a lot of money is. But that's not a true measurement of success, is it? It's not. That's not how you measure success.
Well, for a lot of people, it is.
That's what they do, but that's not how I don't think that's a sustainable or consistent tool, a measurement tool for success. Because, as I said, how much is enough money? $1 more. It will always be that way. How much, you want to get to this level, then you want to get to this level. The top of one ladder is the bottom of the next. I've heard all these quotes, which are, inspiring, but ultimately it's all nonsense, to be honest, if it's not done with the right inside out way of living.
Well, I think you're definitely being called to lead from within, led from within. And, this first episode has been really powerful. And in the next one, we're going to really look at your entrepreneurial journey, because that's also been really fascinating.
A lot of like growing, a lot of moments, a lot of opportunities to look back, a lot of understanding more of my reaction to what happened to me, and how I almost kind of led astray again.
Yeah.
I say almost did. I had the opportunity to be led astray, or I started to see how leadership started to form in my life, and my opinion and my thoughts and feelings around what leadership is. Because again, I think that's something that's very, very different to me as it is to most. And these industries thrive off of using, all this, what's the word, like logic and, what's the word?
You tell me.
It's, they're driven by like tactics and all these things that
Outcomes.
ultimately outcomes.
What's in it for me?
All this academic knowledge and whatever, rather than just be yourself.
Yeah.
Just lead the way that you want to be led, and do it from a place of love. Do it from a place of, I want to make your life better, as opposed to, if I can get this person with me and if I can do that, how much can I make? Who can I become? That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the impact that you've had on many people's lives, and I know we'll touch on that on other podcasts. But I think ultimately being led from within it takes courage. You got to look at your story.
Yeah.
You got to audit it. You got to kind of own what's happened.
It's the road less traveled. It's not it's not sexy. It's not appealing. It's not flexy, but I'm okay with that. I'm willing to sacrifice looking good to be led from within.
Yeah. Well, until next time. That was fascinating, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pete.